I love the One Piece anime. It's great, but it suffers from this teeny tiny little thing called terrible pacing. So much so that I'd even argue that the anime contains the worst filler of all the big three. The kind of filler that you cannot see coming. Which sucks because although people give Naruto and Bleach a ton of shit for having a ton of filler, you can at least ignore those episodes entirely. I've talked to enough of you to realize there's no changing most of your minds on this, but for those of you who are at least a little reasonable and frustrated with how the anime has been so far, there's hope. But before we continue, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button because it helps out my channel a lot. Also, as a fun little side game, try and figure out how many times the word filler is said in this video. Now let's jump into it, starting with a question that I don't think even needs to be asked anymore, but just in case. What is filler? Filler has many definitions and distinctions which have been implemented differently to fit the media in question, but they all boil down to the following: a non-canon scene, episode, or arc that is added to pad time and does not move the main plot forward or change the characters in any significant way. Basically, anything deriving from the source material, unless specifically stated by the mangaka, is filler. Some examples of filler include the Bount arc from Bleach, the last 100 or so episodes of Shippuden, and Skypiea. I'm kidding! On to the next frequently asked question: why is filler? If you check the filler episode lists of the big three, you'll notice that Naruto and Bleach are well into the hundreds, while One Piece sits just a couple of episodes shy of Hyaku. Now, if you're new to the world, you might be wondering to yourself, why would shows do this? Why would you purposely take a popular series and drag it on for so long?
You innocent, naive, ignorant, beautiful soul.
For starters, the era of the big three was a very long time ago. Prehistoric, in fact. In these days, Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece all had to pump out a brand new episode every week, no matter what. And unfortunately, One Piece is still subjected to this format. And back in the day, this was great, because no matter what, you were guaranteed a brand new episode of your favorite anime every week. The biggest drawback with this format, though, is if the manga that you're adapting is still being published, because anime moves quicker than manga. Well, usually. I'll get to this in a bit, but this means that studios sometimes had to find ways to slow down an anime to keep it from catching up. In other words, filler. Remember that very happy kid who was just happy to get a guaranteed episode every week? Now picture him as a teenager who's pissed off because that amazing cliffhanger he just witnessed is going to be followed up by a filler arc starting next week. Looking at you, Infinite Tsukiyomi arc. Ah shit, I probably shouldn't have looked directly at it. Gonna go enjoy an alternate reality where I invested my time into Bitcoin rather than the ant zombie fungus. But don't be fooled, filler doesn't just come in arc or episode format. It's very sneaky, and can often be used mid-episode to stretch out scenes and again, pad time. The most notable form of this type of filler is hands down, or I guess hands up, the late great Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball. Before we even knew what filler was, we knew how long it took these motherfuckers to power up in this show. And it didn't matter because that shit was hype. We were all gonna try and go Super Saiyan anyway, and even though it technically draws out episodes to a ridiculous length, the transformation into Super Saiyan 3 is the best moment in the entire series. Fight me. Also, shout out to Bruce Falconer. Anyway, just to give a little bit more context, and also since I've already committed to this motif, how is filler? So filler isn't always unbearable or bad. As we can see, it sometimes adds to the enjoyment of a series. Ever wanted to know what Naruto's life would be like if he had a dad? There's filler for that. Ever wondered what the Gote 13 Zanpakuto look like when they manifest? There's filler for that. Want to know how deep into the flashback loop Rebecca, Vivi, and Shirahoshi get into when they finally meet each other? Well, there's the Reverie arc for that. See, I'm getting to the point, I promise. I just want to stress the fact that there are some filler arcs in our precious shonen series that aren't just good for a wandering mind, they're good, period. Kakashi and Itachi's Anbu arcs are filler. The Zoldyck family arc is filler. Hell, even the Otherworld tournament is filler. See what I did there? And even if they don't matter in the long run, they're filled with amazing moments for the characters in them. Also, some of the funniest bits are filler, so it's whatever.
Pervert camel. Pervert camel.
But unfortunately, for every good piece of filler, there must exist 50 hours of bad filler. Madara vs. the 4th Division is one of the most iconic scenes to ever come out of Naruto. In fact, it's so iconic that I often use it as the intro for my videos. And it's filler. On the other hand, Naruto is known for its ridiculous amount of flashbacks. Though the manga will play up a talk no jutsu by throwing in a flashback every so often, a couple of panels is completely different than another 2 or 3 minute long recap of the swing.
Plug, flat kicked your ass.
Right.
Remember back in the day?
Right.
I used to cry on the swing.
Right. Right.
Speaking of which, let's take another look at the Big Three's filler charts. In other words, where is filler? Naruto has 720 episodes total, 220 in the original and 500 in Shippuden, respectively 90 filler episodes in the original and 203 in Shippuden, and then all of That's 720 episodes to cover 700 chapters. This means that per episode, Naruto covers less than one chapter of manga. In other words, 40% of Naruto is filler, and that's disgusting. But when you remove the filler episodes, it's a completely different story. I was gonna add the word narratively here, but actually no, because if you remove the filler, then you don't get the Jinchuriki stories. Then again, if you watch the filler, you probably still don't give a shit about them. Anyway, it only takes about 427 canon episodes to cover 700 chapters. Nearly 300 episodes of difference between the chapters and the episodes. Which means, if you skip the filler, then you're actually getting a little less than 2 chapters per episode. And that is much more reasonable. Now what about Bleach? Bleach is about 366 episodes total, and it has about 165 filler episodes. So it's better off than Naruto in terms of overall episodes, but it's still about 40% filler. But if you remove that filler, then you're left with about 201 episodes. That means that Bleach covers a whopping 3 chapters per Hold up, gotta add the 1,000-year blood war real quick. So it's scheduled to be 52 episodes long, and none of it is supposed to be filler, so we're now at 253 canon episodes to cover 698 chapters. Still not bad, actually. Without filler, it's covering well over 2 chapters per episode, so nearly 450 episodes less than chapters. And even with filler, it's in the same ballpark as Naruto with about 418 episodes that cover about 700 chapters. Bleach is also now benefiting from the seasonal model, so instead of dragging through episodes to keep a distance from the manga, it's able to adapt its finale without that restriction, and thus is able to adapt consistently about 5 chapters per episode, sometimes even hitting 6. And it somehow does this while still providing new content and leaving room for atmosphere and tension. You would think 6 chapters per episode would be breakneck speed, but it really isn't. It feels well paced and carefully planned in my opinion. Finally, let's look at One Piece. One Piece is currently sitting at around 1,096 episodes, 98 of which are filler. So without filler, it's just under 1,000 episodes. That's 998 to cover 1,109 chapters? How is this possible? For all the shit people give the other bigs, One Piece has the lowest difference between chapters and episodes. And it doesn't matter whether or not you look at the filler because that's 1,096 episodes to cover 1,109 chapters. So far less than 1 chapter per episode. And even if you remove the filler and consider the fact that the anime's only covered about 1,065 of those 1,109 chapters, there's now a difference of less than 100 episodes to chapters. So for all that talk about filler, or lack thereof, it seems like One Piece is still adapting slow as shit. Or at least slower than any of the other two. Because no matter how bad the filler in Naruto and Bleach got, neither ever came close to surpassing their chapter number in episodes without it. One Piece is somehow very close to doing just that. If you're a new viewer and don't know how to subtract the filler, you might think, what am I even watching the anime for if the manga is somehow shorter in sheer volume? This definitely speaks to how bad the weekly format has turned out for Toei in the long run, and why it's so great that anime drops seasonally as the norm now, but that's another issue entirely. For now, I'd like to focus on how this is even possible without substantially long filler arcs. I mean, One Piece runs on the same weekly model as the other two. How is it never caught up to the manga? Does the manga just move that fast? Well, it's the opposite. The anime just moves that slow. And that's the whole argument. Thank you for watching. And this leads me to the most important, yet potentially controversial part of this video. Good versus bad filler. The issue with the One Piece anime is that you can't just skip filler because it's in the episodes themselves. Like I said before, there's good filler. Madara vs Hashirama is filler. Skypiea is filler, but there's also bad filler. And bad filler is anything that gets in the way of the episode so much that it can ruin the viewer's experience. Remember the swing? Well, imagine getting that exact flashback 50 times within the same arc. Sounds ridiculous and hyperbolic, I know, but it's not. We saw that exact thing happen in Dressrosa. Rebecca's flashback appears once in the manga, and 48 times in the anime. This arc took 111 episodes to cover 102 chapters, and that's not counting its 7 filler episodes. Even if it did take exactly 102 episodes, that's still pretty bad, and the fans agree. This was a terrible viewing experience week to week. And that's not just for Dressrosa. Pretty much every arc post time skip has some sort of problem like this with its pacing. The One Piece anime has not taken less episodes to cover the same span of chapters since Sabaody. When you're watching week to week and you're surprised with a filler episode, or even seeing it as the preview for the next episode, it impedes on your experience. And that's what the One Piece anime has been like for the last 10 years. You tune in, realize that ain't shit about to happen this episode, and then you're left feeling like you've been watching the series in slow motion. It also doesn't help that you need to get through a 2-minute opening and sometimes 3 minutes of recap just to get to the episode. And even then, the event teased in the title card won't even begin to happen until the last minute or so. So we've discussed that there's good and bad filler. The next thing to talk about is, when is filler bad? Maybe I'm old, but people have forgotten the real reason why filler sucked for the Big 3 era. Going back and watching these episodes now may not make them canon all of a sudden, but it does provide a nice additional piece of content that you can enjoy. I mean, who doesn't want to see Naruto team up with some other squads every now and again? Who doesn't want to see Kakashi's face? The problem with filler in those days was that you didn't know it was coming. It's whatever when you can just skip the filler, but if you're waiting all week and get a recap episode, then it's quiet. You're getting cooked for that. Solo Leveling just went through that same exact roast session, but got flamed even harder because it's running on a seasonal model where there's no risk of it catching up to its manhwa because it's already concluded. The circumstances may be a little different, but it's still the same feeling. So yeah, if you're watching week to week or buying the Blu-ray set, you're getting a fuck ton of filler. And we know that sucks because that's your time and money. But if you're just watching online, then the series could be 90% filler and it wouldn't really matter because you could just skip it. But that's not really possible with the One Piece anime now, is it? Sure, it's easy to get sucked in by the funny bits, hype moments, and the Straw Hat Crew's dynamic overall, but then you realize about 1,000 episodes in that half of this shit probably could have been cut. It's why Toei has attempted to cut up the arcs into hour-long episodes. It's why One Piece was created. It's even the reason why we're getting a Netflix-produced Studio Wit remake while the original is airing. What other anime do you know has done such a thing? At this point, you can't just say the anime is terribly paced. You have to admit that the result of the pacing is due to the ridiculous amount of padding that stretches the anime out. In other words, filler. Cope if you want, but if it takes about 3 minutes to let out an attack that isn't charged based like a spirit bomb or a special beam cannon because it's reusing the exact same shot continuously, that's filler. And as a fan of the series, it's a hard pill to swallow. And just to round this whole bit out, who is filler? I have no idea. Maybe it's the friends we made along the way. But it's not all doom and gloom. Towards the end of Wano, One Piece reintroduced something that has not existed in the anime since episode 278, an ending sequence. This 90-second sequence alone has helped tremendously in fixing its biggest issue. Don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of filler, but now that filler has the opportunity to be fun, rather than serve as cheap buffer between the plot points. It doesn't ruin the pacing anymore. I'm enjoying the moments we get with the crew running around Egghead a lot more than the minutes spent on winding attacks and panning over to everyone on the island before they land. I haven't had as much fun with the Robin and Chopper recaps at the end of the episodes, but honestly, I treat those the same way I treat a YouTuber I fuck with when they add an extra minute and a half of nothing at the end of their video to hit their ad mark. I look the other way. Just keep that shit away from the action, you know? And please, I doubt this will happen, but Toei, for the love of God, no recap episodes this arc. You're already spending like 2 minutes an episode making sure we know who everyone is, so there's no need for that. Even though we have a goated Wit remake on the way, I'm way more concerned with what the anime can do for me and my current viewing experience, because that remake is for the next generation. And so far, Egghead has actually remedied the situation enough to restore my faith in the series. Sure, it's still moving less than 1 chapter per episode, but it's still good anime. We're getting cover stories adapted, some amazing action sequences, and overall it feels like a full experience and not just some cheap substitute for content. Because to be honest, you could have replaced a quarter of Wano with PowerPoint decks and I probably wouldn't have noticed. Either way, this is the final saga of One Piece, so what better time for it to get its anime in check than now? Let's just hope this video doesn't age terribly because Toei decides to undo all its progress mid-arc. But I guess at that point we'll just have to look forward to the Wit remake, so fingers crossed. Anyway, that's it for me. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and comment below me. Have a nice day. Be safe.